40 plus years. So he's always been real close just to the public in general, and especially to Black culture. So it's nothing new. Obviously, what we had to deal with, obviously, from 2016 when they tried to paint him out to be someone he really wasn't, and they ran that play year after year after year. And listen, here we are in 2024. I think a lot of the black voters here in Georgia, they remember, they looked at the contrast. They're looking at the contrast of the success under Donald Trump and what we have in the Biden-Harris.
The self-described Catholic governor of Massachusetts is using tax dollars to discourage women from visiting crisis pregnancy centers because they do not offer abortions.
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is spending $1 million on social media platforms, billboards, radio, and buses disparaging crisis pregnancy centers, using the term anti-abortion, and claiming they're posing a significant risk to the health and well-being of pregnant women. C.J. Doyle of the Catholic Action League of Massachusetts says Healey has been an abortion radical for as long as she's been in public life.
So we're dealing with a woman she's a partnered lesbian, by the way, and a woman who was a longtime fanatic on the issue of abortion.
The American Center for Law and Justice is filing a lawsuit against the governor on behalf of several crisis pregnancy centers, claiming the campaign infringes on their constitutional rights.
This is really the public demonization of the pro-life movement by an elected official.
What's so disappointing to Doyle is that Governor Healey claims to be a Catholic.
This partnered lesbian, who is one of the most militant abortion proponents in the country, identifies as Catholic.
He says the Archdiocese of Boston should be fighting the campaign, but the exact opposite is happening.
There's a more serious issue here also with Healey, which is why is it that the Archdiocese of Boston and Cardinal Sean O'Malley seems to be promoting her?
I'm Steve Jordahl.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty P.
The feature-length documentary Culture Warrior, Don Wildman and the Battle for Decency, premiering November 11th, chronicles the life and ministry of Don Wildman. It takes you through the founding of the National Federation for Decency, what has become AFA. It's a call to stand firm for righteousness and shows how that resolve can make a huge difference in our world.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Find out more and watch the trailer at culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Tuesday, September the 3rd, 2024. Yes, September is here. Joining me in studio is Wesley Wildman. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning.
Christopher Woodward.
Good morning.
And in Kansas City is Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Tim. How you doing today?
Doing well. Is a weather report for KC is what?
Oh, Tim, it's almost perfect weather. Highs around 74, 75, lows down into the upper 50s. No rain for the next 10 days. So this has been the longest, hottest summer we've had in the years that Marlene and I have lived in the Kansas City area. But now fall has come and football is back in. The Chiefs are playing Thursday night. So all's right with the world.
Who do the Chiefs play Thursday?
Baltimore Ravens. It's a replay of the AFC Championship game, but it's going to be here in Kansas City. So
Thursday night.
It's beautiful.
All right.
Well, as beautiful as your place is there and all that you got going your way, Dad unfortunately has his own issues with football right now.
How's that?
We were talking about.
Well, I'm a DirecTV subscriber.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and DirecTV and Disney are fighting.
Yeah.
And so the result is Disney has blocked ESPN from DirecTV. So they're, I don't know.
But you got a couple days to figure this out. It's not like we're playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Your team's playing tomorrow.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't. I'm not going to be that invested in it. I'm not going to go. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It's just wrong.
But you know what I'm talking about?
It's wrong. This is un-American to take sports away from us in the fall.
Yeah.
College football season.
Wesley, you switched over to like internet TV or something, didn't you?
Yeah, we've got a couple different packages we use, between Hulu Plus and Amazon Prime and a couple others, and then
You want to give your passwords out?
Haven't
been ready.
Actually, I think you can get, I don't know what the number is, 4 or 5 devices at one time, because I know that when I'm being kicked off, I know somebody's borrowed my password.
Oh, seriously?
We've shared it within the family before.
Is that legal?
Well,
I hope it is.
If I've given it out and I just forgot, I guess it is.
Do you have cable or direct?
We have we used to have DirecTV. You know, had that dish on top of the house and all that. Now we're with YouTube TV, but we have Netflix and Prime Video, and
all those,
Apple TV, and we have so many. Wesley, I don't even know how many we have.
Well, a lot of services today package. So if you're an Amazon customer, for example, you get Amazon Prime TV,
and that's the sole home of Thursday Night Football now is Amazon.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just saying.
Well, anyway, it's hard to keep up with the world today on technology. Used to, we had 4 channels, ladies and gentlemen.
And you were the remote.
ABC, CBS, NBC, and good old PBS, where Sesame Street could always be found. and Fred Rogers, and what else? The Electric Company. Remember that?
Yeah.
Anybody remember that?
No.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's where you learn your vowels and your nouns and all that stuff. All right. Well, we hope you had a nice Labor Day weekend and it was restful. But fall is here, and on the calendar at least, September the 3rd, 2024. Ray, give us a good word this morning from the Scripture.
Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." We all know that. We've heard it. But he added this. He said, "But if the salt has lost its savor," and in Luke 14, he said, "Salt is good." We all know that. But if it loses its saltiness, there's no way to make it salty again. You know, that's an interesting thing. We all know Christians are the salt of the earth. But what did he mean when he said when the salt loses its savor? Well, sodium chloride, which is what salt is, one of the most stable compounds on earth, which is why if you've got, Morton salt and you put it up in a cool, dry place, it'll last not just months, but salt will last for years. It's a very stable compound. So what did he mean when he said, if the salt has lost its savor? It's the idea of taking salt and mixing it with dirt, mixing it with mud. I mean, suppose you're at the dinner table and you say, pass the salt, and you get a great big glob of mud with a few grains of salt. You're not going to put that on top of your salad. You know what I think Jesus is saying? He's saying, if we become like the world, we can't help the world. If we adopt the world's standards, the world's way of thinking, if we adopt the world view of the people who do not know Jesus, we cannot help them. Ironically, the more the church becomes like the world, the less we can help the world. The more the Church of Jesus stands different from the world, the more they will understand the difference that Jesus Christ makes today. So, my friends, you are the salt of the earth, but get rid of that mud. Get rid of the glub. Get rid of the moral compromise. Don't be afraid to be different, because when you are different for the cause of Christ, the world will see and understand the difference that Jesus can make in a person's life.
Amen. Amen, brother Ray. Thank you for sharing that. From what Bible verses are you citing there?
The one we all know is Matthew chapter 5, verse 13 from the Beatitudes. But it's interesting, this thing about salt is mentioned also in the Gospel of Mark, and Marlene and I were reading it today from Luke chapter 14. Salt is good, but friends, stay salty out there. Don't lose your saltiness.
Right. Amen. Amen. All right. We will turn now to the news of the day.
We need to continue to be in prayer for the nation of Israel as well as the leadership there. And I say that because over the weekend, the U.S. President Joe Biden said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not doing enough to reach a deal with Hamas terrorists who are threatening to kill even more hostages. For those that might have focused a little more on football over the weekend, Israel found 6 hostages, including one Israeli American, and they were killed by Hamas That led to Biden's comments there. And then there were protests into the streets of Jerusalem, people upset with Israel not doing a ceasefire with Hamas. They had some things to say about Netanyahu. That led to a press conference in which Netanyahu came out and spoke to the press. Mr. Netanyahu is of the opinion that, one, he will not be preached to. That was a comment. But also, he says the world needs to focus more on Hamas terrorists than Israel. Clip 1.
After this, we're asked to show seriousness. We're asked to make concessions. What message does this send Hamas? It says, kill more hostages, murder more hostages, you'll get more concessions.
That's it.
That's it. That's common sense there. You know, that we've talked about this from the very beginning. After about, I don't know, a week or so, it started turning gradually and obviously more increasingly to the focus on, you know, ceasefire. Hamas doesn't, you know, don't do anything that causes this to get worse, as if Israel.
The burden's on Israel.
Right. After about a week.
You mean after about a week when the slaughter in October what was that, right? 7th? Was it 7th?
Right, October the 7th.
After October the 7th.
By the way, we're just a month away from, right?
Of the year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not even been a year yet, and after the Hamas attack, it's not even been quite a year yet, and the sentiment and the position that Benjamin Netanyahu just shared is the same one that we shared from the very beginning. And that's that if you don't, when they do something, you can't negotiate with terrorists, is what we've said all along, and that's exactly what he's sharing there. So, for me and for many, it should just be common sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this whole case is especially ugly because you've got a situation where the IDF, the Israeli forces, they were on a rescue mission in Gaza, and they were getting close to the hostages. And when Hamas heard the sounds of the Israeli soldiers getting close, they not just murdered them, but they murdered the Israeli hostages one by one in a brutal, bloody fashion. What do you expect Netanyahu to do in response to that? You don't negotiate with people who do stuff like that. You go and find them and kill them and end their life on this earth. And look, on one hand, I can understand. I saw the picture, Tim, of the thousands of Israeli citizens, protesting. I get that. They're tired. They're weary. They've been under attack from Hamas on one side and Hezbollah on the other, and the threat of Iran launching missiles from the east. I get that. But you do not. We've always heard you don't negotiate with terrorists, and I guarantee you this is Exhibit A. There is no negotiation to be done. It won't be over until the power of Hamas and Hezbollah is finally broken.
Well, and I will say, too, that this is not just Israel's problem. It's also the United States of America's problem, in the sense that what is happening in Israel is playing out here in the U.S. with the form of anti-Israel or pro-Hamas protests. We had all the stories. We had all the sound bites from this past spring semester. Now students across the nation are returning to classes, maybe starting classes for the first time. Columbia is one of those places that saw a lot of protest, and we'll probably see even more demonstrations in these coming weeks. I have now a soundbite. It's an exchange this morning between Fox's Lawrence B. Jones and Columbia student Elisha Baker, who does not feel safe on campus because of the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas things playing out there. Clip 10.
Do you feel safe? Do you feel like they're going to get control of this before you hit the campus?
I really don't know. I moved in yesterday, and the truth is that even just walking around this area, you feel tense because we know what happened last spring.
Well, okay, so we'll see. It seems to have quieted down. I'm talking about the anti-Israel protests on college campuses. Most of them were closed for the summer. Well, maybe not summer school, but you know what I'm saying. But that seems to have. Anyway, we are coming up on the anniversary of the. Remember, the Hamas killers went. Was it how many? 1,100.
Oh, it was over 1,000.
Yeah, over 1,000 people were butchered on that particular day, and then the hostages were taken. I don't know how many of them, 150 of them. And Wesley, as you said, almost immediately it changed from, okay, the horror of that day and who was responsible for it to Israel needs to stop retaliating.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Israel needs to stop retaliating because
They're making it worse.
Yeah, making it worse, or innocent people might die in Gaza. All right, you're listening to today's issues. Next story, Chris.
Well, let's mention this one more soundbite here on the protest on campuses. Many people do think that while it did quiet down over the summer break, things are going to start heating up again because Israel and Hamas continue to fight one another and continue to remember, America, that this whole thing started because of terrorists that attacked Israel. Israel has been trying to eradicate terrorists, and then now it's become this war that Israel is committing on the Palestinian state. So the media has completely flipped this. But I've got some audio here of Fox News contributor David Webb, who is of the opinion that we are going to see more of the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas stuff here in the coming weeks. Clip 11.
Well, you can expect more. We saw this play out in New York City yesterday with thousands of pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist protesters carrying the Hezbollah flag and more. And this is going to go right back on campus. By the way, these are not protests. They're riots. If you occupy private property, it's not public property. If you occupy it and damage it, that's a riot. Well, the fact is we've let this go too far in this country. Yes, we have First Amendment enshrined in the Constitution, as it should be, to protect us from government. Calling for genocide, going after people, attacking them because of a different point of view is not allowed. That is criminal activity.
I got to tell you, the debate as of right now between Harris and Trump is 1 week from today. I would be shocked if these kinds of things are not among the questions that moderators have for the candidates in terms of where do you stand on this issue kind of thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Frey. Any comments on that before we move to the next story here?
Well, just about the debate that's coming up a week from tonight. After all this, after all the ping pong back and forth and arguing, Chris, back and forth, I'm kind of amazed that the debate is going to take place. But I hope they actually do what you just said and talk about this and talk about what's happening on the campuses around the country, because the radical left, which is basically the whole Democrat Party now, the radical left is so pro-Hamas and so anti-Israel. This issue ought to be raised because it'll give President Trump a chance to make a strong stand in favor of Israel.
Yeah. Well, we've seen at the Democrat National Convention and a couple of the other rallies that the Democrats have held, the Hamas, pro-Hamas protesters, which is always interesting. What is usually their position? Just,
their position is that Israel. Okay, I don't agree with their position, but are their opinion, their
reasoning.
But here's what they're going to say. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong, or Chris, whatever. They're going to say, listen, Israel occupies Palestinian land.
Right.
The Jews occupy Palestinian land. Therefore, they're an illegitimate country. And therefore, they are oppressors of the Palestinian people, the Arabs who live there, who go under the banner of the Palestinians, because there are all kind of different Arabs. There are Arabs in Saudi Arabia, there are Arabs in Egypt, there are Arabs in Jordan. I mean, but they're all Arabs. So they're going to say, therefore, Israel pushed the Palestinian, not all of them, but they gave into Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and that life is miserable there because the Israelis have to check everything that comes into Israel, into Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and yada yada. That's a Jewish, but that's a Jewish slang.
Yeah,
people make fun of that. But anyway, so that's what they're going to tell you, and here's what they're going to. Furthermore, here's what they're going to tell you. Therefore, the fact that the Palestinian Hamas killed those people on October the 11th, those 1,100 people. Israel and the Jewish occupiers deserved it.
Sure. Now that
because we're
many of them have said that.
Yeah, they deserved it.
Sure.
They deserved it because they've been oppressing the Palestinian people for all these years. That's what they're going to tell you. And so
So a lot of
that's their paradigm, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in light of that, I think that we saw that with the protests of the Hamas, I think that the Democrats have more at stake here to lose in this discussion because they have been, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because if they give in to the Hamas protesters and give them the answers or answer in the way they want them to answer, it sure looks bad for a lot, because there's a lot of Jewish people that support the Democrat Party.
Yes.
And so there's more conflict there for them on this issue than it would be potentially for a Republican candidate, in this case, President Donald Trump. So
it's a it's a problem for Harris.
Look, they've been marching. They've been marching on the campuses, and they've been chanting. It comes down to that one sentence: from the river, that's the Jordan River, to the sea, Palestine will be free. They will not stop. Hamas will not stop until Israel as a nation is eradicated, is destroyed. People, they say, well, let's have a two-state solution. They don't really mean that.
No,
What they want
that.
is a one-state solution, a Palestinian state with the Jews gone completely. How do you negotiate with people like that? You don't. You can't.
Yeah, and I don't want to bore people, but if you go back to the history of this conflict, to its origins, I'm talking about 1948. The land, maybe it precedes that. I don't know, Ray, but I know that in 1948, that land, Palestine, if that's what you want to call it, or was that what it was called then by the British? Do you remember?
Yes, right.
It was called Palestine?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So it was under the British mandate. In other words, the British, you ever heard of the British Empire?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. That was part of it. Right, Ray? Right?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So there was no Palestine sovereign country that Israel caused to not exist any longer, or the Jews did. But post World War II, 1948, the United Nations, previously called the League of Nations, I believe, said we're going to give this land, this small piece of land, which is historically the home of the Jews, to them because of what they suffered through the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. So that ignited a immediate war, fights, battles between Jews. That's where Jews on the ground there trying to take the land that the British mandate had, or the United Nations had given them, and hold it. But they were immediately attacked by the Arabs who lived there, the Palestinians, who said, we don't want the Jews here. And they've been fighting ever since.
Yeah.
Got that right?
That's a good summary. We had hot war breakout in 48, again in 56, again in 67, again in 73. And then we've had this intifada, which has been off and on for the last 25 years or so. Israel has not had much peace since 1948. And I don't blame, I don't see how anybody who wants to consider the matter fairly could say anything except that Israel has a right to defend itself.
Yeah. I will say this from a positive side, and this is my observation. Israel has basically been at peace with its neighbors, with its immediate, with its immediate neighbors, all Arab.
With Jordan for a long time.
They've had peace with Jordan.
Right.
They've had. I mean, if you're a tourist, you can go between.
Go back and forth.
Yeah, between. They've had peace with Egypt
since like the 80s, right?
I don't remember the last time the Israelis and the Egyptians had war.
I think maybe 73.
I think it was in the 70s.
Yeah. So they've had peace with Egypt, which is on their southern border. They've had peace with Saudi Arabia.
Right.
They've had peace with Jordan. And then you've got two other countries they border, which is Syria, which is like the Wild Wild West, right?
Right.
But
Right.
the Syrians don't mess with Israel.
Right.
They don't. I mean, the Israel will occasionally fire in there, and knock out some
Right.
kind of target. And then you got Lebanon. Lebanon is to the immediate north of Israel, and that is where Hezbollah operates out of. So you'll have flare-ups between Hezbollah and the Israelis, like we did, a week ago?
Right.
Or so, from time to time. And the Israelis went in and did some serious bombardments about 10 days ago or so because they had intelligence that Hamas was heavily armed and going to attack.
When you hear that there are rocket attacks from southern Lebanon into the northern part of Israel, don't say to yourself, "Oh, Lebanon, the country is attacking Israel."
No.
That's not what's happening. It's Hezbollah
operating in Lebanon.
That's right.
Just real quick before we go to the break, there's a book called Well Versed by Jim Garlow, Well Versed, and there's 2 chapters on there on this issue, and I was reading through it this morning, and it covers it within about 20-30 pages really well on this issue.
Yeah. Better than I just did? Or
No, as good as you did. Yeah, you summarized his summary.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, you summarized his summary.
I taught Jim a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't talked to him in a while. I don't like to talk about it. 'Cause,
Right.
Don't want to take.
Sure.
I don't want to take too much credit.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
We wouldn't want that.
No. We'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on AFR.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Once upon a time, a traveling shoe salesman happened upon a shoe store manager who told him a tale which a customer had passed along to him just a few days earlier. The customer had said that he'd come from a country where anyone selling shoes could make a fortune. The customer had told the store manager that there wasn't a single shoe salesman in the entire country. Well, the traveling salesman, tired of competing with countless other shoe salesmen, asked where the country was. The store manager told him, and he immediately rushed out of the store without trying to sell the manager a single pair of shoes. The salesman wired his boss to send 10,000 pairs of shoes to that country at once, and told him that he was taking the next plane to the country. He would be there when the shoes arrived and would make himself and his company a fortune selling shoes in that particular country because there wasn't a single salesman in the entire country. The salesman wired his wife that he was going to the country where there was no shoe salesman and that he would come home with enough money for them to live happily ever after. When the shoe salesman arrived at the country where there was no other shoe salesman, he was greeted by an official of that country. The salesman was so excited about the fortune he was to make. He asked the official how many people lived in that country. About 2 million, the official replied. But then the salesman happened to look down and discovered that the official wasn't wearing any shoes. "Why aren't you wearing any shoes?" the salesman asked. "No one wears shoes in this country," the official replied. The salesman hurried to the telegraph office and wired his company. "Council order. I'm returning. No one here wears shoes." Well, upon arrival at home, the salesman found that he had been fired. Shortly thereafter, another shoe salesman happened to enter the same shoe store which the first salesman had entered. He was told the same story by the same manager. Immediately, the salesman rushed out of the store without trying to sell a single pair of shoes. The second salesman wired his boss to ship 10,000 pairs of shoes to the country at once and told him that he was taking the first plane to that country. The salesman wired his wife and told her he was going to the country where there wasn't another shoe salesman. He promised to make a fortune for them and that they would live happily ever after. When met at the airport by the same official who had greeted the earlier salesman, the salesman asked how many people lived in that country. "About 2 million people," the official replied. Then the salesman discovered that the official wasn't wearing any shoes. When asked why, the official replied, "No one wears shoes in this country." Immediately, the salesman went to the telegraph office and wired his boss, "Send another 50,000 pairs of shoes immediately. No one in this country has a pair." And lo and behold, that salesman became the most prosperous shoe salesman in all the world. The name of the first shoe salesman was Mr. Pessimist. The name of the second shoe salesman was Mr. Optimist.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven not built by human hands. 2 Corinthians 5:1.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray. And we thank you for listening to AFR. All right, we talked a lot about the situation in Israel the last half hour. Ray, what does it mean when the Bible tells us, and where is the scripture that tells us that we are to pray for the peace of Jerusalem? I hear that a lot by Christians, but I'm not sure. Well, I think I know what it means, but what does it mean exactly?
Well, first of all, when the Bible says pray for the peace of Jerusalem, it's telling us that we live in a dangerous world. Jerusalem was the city that was the apple of God's eye. In fact, I'm looking at Psalm 122, which is, a lot of people know that one. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet are standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. Then you come down to verse 6. It says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they be secure who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers. So when you pray for the peace of Jerusalem, you're praying for an end of warfare, an end to ethnic hatred, and you're praying that at long last there will be peace in the Middle East and peace in the city of Jerusalem. And today, Jerusalem, as you know, Tim, you've been there many times. It's a divided city in many ways, morally and spiritually and ethnically and ethically. So I think Christians ought to pray for peace in the Middle East with the understanding, as preachers often like to say, there will be no lasting peace in the Middle East until the Prince of Peace himself, the Lord Jesus Christ, returns. But we are fully justified in praying for a just and fair resolution to the struggles in the Middle East, not just for Jerusalem, but in Gaza and in the West Bank and in Lebanon, and into the hatred and into the bloodshed, that there might be peace in this land and in the city of Jerusalem. So that's there's several places in the Bible, but the one that I think most people know best is Psalm 122, verse 6, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
That's scripture. We hear that a lot as Christians. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Wanted Ray to give us some context there for that. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues, and the next story, Chris.
Well, we've got a big update out of Florida involving
Is it a big update, Chris?
It is. It is. Based on what I'm going to share, how I'm going to set this up.
Okay.
All right. So as we have discussed on this program and have covered a lot on AFN.net and will continue to cover on AFN.net, Florida is among the many states voting this November on a ballot initiative to provide a so-called constitutional right to abortion and therefore do away with anything their state has done to protect life, even down to something as simple as no abortions after 6 weeks, that kind of thing. There has been concern in the past few weeks that former President Trump might not be a no on Amendment 4, like many pro-life individuals and organizations want people to be. But that changed over the weekend when Donald Trump did tell this to a reporter. Clip 2.
Voting yes or no on Amendment 4 in Florida?
So I think 6 weeks, you need more time than 6 weeks. I've disagreed with that right from the early primaries. When I heard about it, I disagreed with it. At the same time, the Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation where you can do an abortion in the 9th month. And, you know, some of the states like Minnesota and other states have it where you could actually execute the baby after birth. And all of that stuff is unacceptable. So I'll be voting no for that reason.
All right, that's former President Trump. All right, so
I appreciate he didn't leave any ambiguity.
Yeah.
And what he was trying to articulate as opposed to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this has been somewhat controversial for him the last few days, talking about for him being President Trump. I was on Jenna's show this morning, Jenna Ellis, talking about this. So if you heard me, then I'm going to repeat myself. So if you want to do something else,
I'll post the podcast.
You can come back in 2 minutes and you won't have to listen to me repeat myself. All right, so about a year and a half ago, or whenever it was, it seems like that, the state of Florida, their legislature passed a law. The law was passed, which said that abortion in the state of Florida will be prohibited after the detection of a baby's heartbeat, which is 6 weeks. Governor Ron DeSantis signed that law, so it became enshrined. All right. Well, President Trump at the time, he was sparring with. I don't know that this was any motivation of his, but he was sparring with Governor DeSantis because Governor DeSantis was running against him in the Republican primary. But nonetheless, I don't think that impacted. Sometimes Trump's statements are impacted by who he's going up against, you know. But in this case, remember at the time Trump said that was terrible. The law was terrible. That it was for political reasons. It was terrible because the majority of Americans do not agree with the 6-week law on abortion. What happened there? What's on the question now for the former president is: are you going to vote? So here's the amendment. It's called Amendment 4. The Amendment 4 is an attempt by those who are pro-abortion, they call themselves pro-choice, to overturn the heartbeat law.
Well, more so than just overturn it, but add to an open.
Oh yeah, here's the choices. If you vote yes on Amendment 4 in Florida, then abortion will be allowed through 9 months of pregnancy.
Yes.
In the state of Florida. There's only 2 ways to vote on this. If you vote no, which that's what Trump said he's going to do now, then you are supporting the heartbeat bill, or a 6-week prohibition on abortion.
Right.
So it's one or the other. President Trump was confused, I think, the other day when he said he needed more weeks.
Yeah, he commented on his position of how many weeks on that.
Trump does not believe in 6 weeks. Trump, I think, would probably say abortion should be allowed through the first trimester. I'm just, based on what he said, and I'm guessing that's where he falls. 12 to 15 weeks, something like that. I heard he mentioned 15 weeks a year ago in an interview. So he does not. Trump would agree that abortion should be allowed. Personally, this is his personal views. Okay, through first trimester of a pregnancy. So anyway, that's got his answer and then his non-answer, and then his answer. It got him into some hot water with the pro-life groups and pro-life advocates and a lot of people who vote on that issue as a top-tier issue when they go to the polls. So his position, the president's position, President Trump, I'm talking about former President Trump, his position is now that he will support he will vote no on overturning the heartbeat bill.
Right, and the reason one of the main reasons he's being asked about this because that's where he has a residence there. He can vote on this.
Yeah, in Florida.
Florida,
He's a Floridian. Yeah, because he lives at Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
Although he maintains properties in other parts of the country, namely New Jersey and New York, and of course he has some properties in Europe too. All right, so that's that.
Yes. One group that is out there in Florida urging people to vote no is Florida Family Florida Family Voice, formerly known as Florida Family Policy Council. Legislative Director Aaron DiPietro shared some concerns with AFN about Amendment 4 and why they're urging people to vote no. Clip 3.
Common sense safety laws gutted completely. We're going to see term limits gutted. The term viability is not defined. So, and there's a lot of confusion among the general populace over that term as well. I've even heard some people say they thought was at heartbeat, and they thought they were supporting a heartbeat bill. Just the dangerous deceptions within this amendment. We're trying to bring awareness on that.
I will say that people that think this election is going to be lopsided or whatnot, I would urge caution. We're 63.
Lopsided
60,
how?
Well, a lot of people have said for a while now that they think Trump's just going to win by a lot. They don't believe the polling data. But we know that about 10 or 11 states are going to be voting on whether to provide a constitutional right to abortion. That will drive pro-abortion people to the polls. Those people will presumably vote Harris-Walz. So the Trump campaign has some work to do to make sure they get people to the polls, and these pro-lifers are also trying to get out the vote as well in a story we've already covered with like National Right to Life and Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America.
Well, about the polls, what I've found is people believe in the polls when it supports their guy, and when the polls don't support their guy, then the polls are fake.
Or there's option 3, Wesley's option, and that's never believe him either way.
You don't believe in polls at all?
I'm being an extreme there, but by and large, when it comes to polling of any kind on any issue or any candidate or anything like that, I don't.
So you go with your gut.
I put about a fraction of percentage of weight on those.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Well, okay, so
you like that fraction, generally speaking, large amount.
That's called equivocation.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to just tell you, I've cited this website before. I'll cite it again. It's called Real Clear Politics. It's not one poll. It's an average of all the polls. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can take more
credibility.
There's more credibility built into the Real Clear Politics average than there is to any one individual poll. So that's what I look at is Real Clear Politics. Now, there's other services like this. 38? What is
270
it?
to win and stuff like that. 538.
538.
Rasmussen.
Yeah.
Rasmussen. Okay. Is Rasmussen though? Is that a conglomerate, or is that?
No, that's just one single
polling service.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I'll mention I'll do this every week or so. In the battleground states, this is what Real Clear Politics calls them. Those states that are toss-ups that aren't going to be for sure red or for sure blue, which we all know New York's going blue, and we know that Kentucky's going red. Okay, so I'm just for example here. Right. Everybody knows that. All right. So it shows Arizona a tie right now. Arizona is a tie. Nevada is a tie. These are the averages, the polling averages. So Nevada is a tie. I'm talking about a tie between Trump and Harris. Wisconsin has Harris up 1.4. Michigan has Harris up 1.1. So those are virtual ties. I mean, you got the margin of, what is it? What do they call that when they
margin of error?
Within the margin of error, that's usually a 3% allowance. Then you got Pennsylvania, which is a tie. I'm not kidding. Look at this.
Yep.
It's a tie. North Carolina is a tie, and Georgia's a tie. Dead even. I mean, Ray, have you seen? This is just.
Okay, look.
I get maybe this debate will give some separation one way or another. Go ahead.
A couple things, folks. We're 9 weeks away. The election is 9 weeks from today. 63 days. A lot of stuff can happen. Tim, my impression of and I appreciate you reading all that out. That confirms the impression I've had. This is a tight race. It's anybody's to win. It's anybody's to lose. And I think sometimes maybe people from our point of view, very conservative, we cannot imagine why anybody would want to vote for Kamala Harris. We don't have that. And I admit that is the way I feel. I don't understand why people would do that, but millions of people are going to. I think this is going to come down to, out of what, 170 million votes, I think it's going to come down to about 100,000 votes in the 7 states that you mentioned. And
that's what our country needs.
Yeah.
Like another nail biter, razor thin, hanging chads.
I don't plan on going home that election night. I'm just going to sleep in the office.
Right. I think it's going to be 10,000 here, 15,000.
Well, you know what that's going to lead to?
Yes.
That's going to lead to, if your person loses, then you're going to say they cheated. The other side cheated.
Right.
That's what.
I mean, let's suppose
no,
Mr. Trump. Let's suppose Trump comes out. Mr. Trump comes out ahead in the Electoral College. He's probably going to lose the popular vote because of the millions in New York and California.
No.
Are the Democrats going to accept that? Are they going to accept the Donald Trump victory? I don't think so.
They did. They still don't accept 2016.
Right.
That's what I was going to comment on and say. You partially right, in my opinion, and that's that if the Republicans lose, it's likely to say a lot of people on our side will say that the other team cheated. But if the Democrats lose, they're going to skip the threats of they cheated. They're going to go straight to riots and burning cities down.
Oh,
they're going to skip that.
I think there is some.
if Trump
Wesley,
wins,
I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, if Trump wins, Dems far lefts they're going to get.
Well, listen, I just hope that everything can be verified and substantiated, and it's kind of like if your team loses in a close game, you at least want it to be fair.
Sure.
And that you can accept that more than you can accept something where you go, well, yes, we lost, but look at A, B, and C. That's the reason we lost, which was unjust.
Right.
Okay. So
we can't be shutting polls down.
I hope that doesn't happen. Well, some of these states, quite frankly, set themselves up for conspiratorial theories to run amok.
Yeah.
And sometimes conspiracy, who was it that said, sometimes conspiracy theories are true. For example, Pennsylvania. Okay, we all remember what happened on election night in 2020. Pennsylvania had they had election day, and people went to the polls, and President Trump won overwhelmingly that day. He was ahead, 700,000 votes or something?
Right, something, yeah.
The night. Mm-hmm. All right. Then, and everybody knew this was going to happen. It was widely reported, although a lot of people didn't get the message. Pennsylvania said, you know what? Then we're going to start counting the mail-in votes.
Right.
I remember one commentator said, well, precisely what happened would happen. That is, Trump would be ahead on election day, and then the mail-in votes would be counted, and the Biden would win. Okay. Well, when you start counting votes, I remember Trump coming on TV. We were everybody watched till they fell asleep, right?
But then they stopped the counting and they picked back up the next day.
Yes, they did. Now, what I'm going to tell you, if you're a Trump conspiracy theory, he lost because he was cheated because of this, you're not going to like what I have to say. And I'm not saying I agree with myself on this. I'm just telling you how this happened.
Right.
I'm just telling. I'm going to tell you how it happened on an up and up,
Mm-hmm.
not on they cheated.
Right.
They, the Democrats. Okay.
These are specifically mail-in votes, right? This is
yes.
not pick up at the box votes.
No, these are mail-in votes that were sent in, and this is another problem with election season instead of election day. Not only people start doubting voting machines, but they also the mail-in votes. Okay, so Trump was way ahead, 600,000 or 700,000, and I thought a lot of people thought, well, the cushion is going to be so great he can't lose in. It doesn't matter about the mail-in votes in Pennsylvania. And you remember Trump coming on TV that night going, why are they stopping the counting? Remember that? Especially in Pennsylvania. Right. Why are they stopping the counting? What's going on here? That led to people thinking there's funny business going on. Okay, funny business. I mean shenanigans. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So, and you do ask with Trump, what's going on here? Why the stop in counting? Well, when you flip over from counting on same day election go to the polls to hand counting. I guess they were hand counting them. I'm sorry, my ignorance here. I'm thinking they're hand counting these absentee ballots. Not absentee, but the mail-ins, those things. Then you got. Then people go, well, so you're telling me that Biden's catching up?
500,000 votes, 600,000.
Well, the reason is, again, don't throw rocks at me. I'm just telling you the reason is they would say, people who don't believe in conspiracy theories or that Trump was cheated, they would tell you, it's flipped over because the vast majority of people who do mail-in votes during COVID are scaredy cat Democrats. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I say scare. I put the scaredy cat. They don't want to get COVID, so they're voting absentee, so they don't have to go to the polling booth and stand with 100 people in line sneezing on them. This is what they would tell you. So, and still the margin in Arizona was razor thin again.
Georgia razor.
Okay. But I'm just telling you that's how that happened. That whole scenario that night.
Okay, so I thought historically speaking, though, Dems mail in their vote far more than Republicans.
I think so.
I just wondered why. I've always wondered why that's the case too, even pre-COVID.
I don't know. You know, they do that in some states. What is it, Oregon or Washington?
Right, Oregon. Right, the whole state can
just does mail in.
Right.
That signature verification thing, I've never understood. How do you verify? How does an average Joe volunteer? I say average Joe sit down and go and compare a signature. That just seems.
Do they
crazy.
do that? I don't think that. Do they do that?
Yeah,
they're supposed to.
Okay, interesting.
And who decides? Throw that one out. Keep that one.
Right.
I mean, you would have to have almost a signature expert at every polling booth. It just.
Well, there's another alternative here, and that's to do the voter ID. Like you take your driver's license and you do a.
Well, I mean, I don't know what. Tell me.
It makes sense, right?
Solves
a lot of problems.
Do states not have that? What states don't have voter ID?
Well, I know it's been I know.
Oh no, there's several that still don't to this day. I'll look it up.
Look it up. So you're telling me they're.
Oh yeah, this has been an ongoing.
Nevada
issue.
is voting this November on whether to require voter ID going forward, and that would be the furthest state west in the continental U.S. if they were to move in that direction.
Yes,
all right, type in
for 2024, and there's states that still don't.
I wish I knew.
I got you right now. Which states don't?
You ready?
What?
Illinois doesn't.
What are you looking at? Where are you research?
Ballotpedia, voter identification.
Okay, what is it? What is it? What are the states you're about to say?
The ones that don't have it at all.
You mean you don't have to show an ID to vote?
Correct. Washington
That's the real
State,
thing.
Oregon, California, Nevada for right now, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Maryland, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. Some states do have kind of a hybrid where you don't have to show a picture ID, but you can show some other stuff. Those would be like Arizona, Colorado, stuff like that. and then a whole bunch of like our part of the country, southeastern U.S. voter ID.
You should see the map.
Okay, but I'm gonna play
devil's advocate
devil's
on this
advocate.
one with
I hate
no ID
I hate doing
voters.
that. I hate doing that on Christian radio. but how would you manipulate that in any kind of large scale to vote thousands of people duplicates? I don't see how you do it, because even if you don't, okay, listen, even if you don't have voter ID, that is, show it like we have in Mississippi, where you have to walk up and show your driver's license before they allow you.
After you drove your motor vehicle there.
Yes, but you have to show some kind of government ID to vote, which is
in which one?
In Mississippi.
Oh yeah.
But I would still say, let's say I didn't even have that. Okay, and I walk up and say, well, my name's Tim, and give my last name and everything, and
Leave
they
that
say,
up. We may need that in a minute.
so they say, okay, Mr. Wildman, here's your ballot. Go vote, and they check my name off. Okay, nobody can walk in an hour later and say my name.
No, I agree with that.
And go vote for me.
Sure.
Right?
Isn't the real issue more non-citizens voting?
Yes, but how do you do that exactly?
But
you walk up and say, "Hey, my name is Ray," and
but you got to be registered prior to the election. You can't just walk in and say, "Hey, I'm Bill. Yeah. Bill Thompson. I'm ready to vote."
Although there are some places where you can register on that very day.
Correct.
Well, that's insane. Where is that?
That's part of the problem right there.
Huh? I think that was that a problem in Pennsylvania? Or?
There were numbers of problems in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That was one of them. Yeah.
All right, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Abraham Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Republicans are attacking Vice President Kamala Harris for the Biden administration's foreign policy. Chad Pergram has more from Capitol Hill.
With just 2 months before the election, congressional Republicans are trying to remind voters that Vice President Harris played a role in various foreign policy debacles, like the Middle East and the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Republicans believe the administration mishandled the Middle East crisis. They argue that contributed to instability in the region, prompting the attacks on October 7th. The GOP hopes to convert this into a campaign issue in the fall, but Democrats defend the administration. They hope the Biden-Harris team can still calm tensions in the Middle East.
Today is the first day of school at Columbia University in New York, the site of violent anti-Israel riots during the last school term. Jewish students have been harassed, threatened, and attacked by anti-Jewish, pro-terrorist criminals. Eden Yadiger is a Jewish student at Columbia.
When Jewish students like me are being called names, are being spat on, when I have friends that have been physically harassed, pinned up against walls, I mean, I think it's easy to see why we wouldn't feel safe. It's a difficult pill to swallow that while Columbia has a very rich protest history, those protests have never been aimed at other students. Other students have never been seen as a legitimate target in the way that we are now. And this movement, this Free Palestine movement, and I don't even want to call them pro-Palestinian because they are not. They are anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and anti-American.
During an interview with Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, an NBC News reporter falsely stated that Kamala Harris met with family members of the service personnel killed during the Afghanistan withdrawal.
You know who the families also invited? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Where were they? Joe Biden was sitting at a beach.
Kamala Harris was sitting at her mansion in Washington, D.C. She was 4 miles away. 10 minutes. She could have gone to the cemetery and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women. But she hasn't. She never has spoken to them or taken a meeting with them.
Well, they did meet with them during the dignified transfer.
Because of
they were with them at the dignified transfer.
NBC News has issued a correction stating that Harris was not at that ceremony. Ballot measures regarding key issues like abortion, immigration, and crime are on the ballot in some battleground states. William Lajeunesse has more.
Voters in 10 states will consider abortion-related initiatives, most focused on guaranteeing that right until viability. A measure in Missouri would repeal the state's ban on nearly all abortions. The issue is also on the ballot in the presidential battlegrounds of Arizona and Nevada. Arizona voters will also consider a Republican-led initiative making it a state crime to cross the Mexican border illegally and allow state judges to order deportations.
The Mississippi State Auditor's Office has released a staggering report on the cost of the illegal alien invasion on the taxpayers of the Magnolia State. Chad Groening has more.
Analysts from the Office of the State Auditor estimate that there are at least 22,000 illegal aliens currently living in Mississippi. Shad White is the auditor of the state of Mississippi. He says using conservative estimates, illegal immigration costs Mississippi taxpayers over $100 million annually.
It's really unfortunate in this modern era that the states that are affected by illegal immigration are not just the border states along the U.S.-Mexico border. It's really every state now, and Mississippi is no exception. We use the most conservative possible estimates at every turn when we were calculating the amount of taxpayer money that went to benefit illegal immigrants. And numbers, they're probably more likely to be higher than what we said.
And White says the $100 million pays for health care, education, and law enforcement related to illegals that could be going to the betterment of Mississippi citizens and legal residents.
The real unfortunate bottom line here is that the only big picture solution for this problem is a secure southern border. And of course, Mississippi can't make that happen on our own. We've got to have a different administration in office in Washington, D.C., so that our border will be secured and for the folks who are here illegally to be deported. That's really the only way to dramatically reduce the cost that I'm talking about.
I'm Chad Groening.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim Wesley, Steve Paisley Jordahl now.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
And Ray Pritchard, raised in Kansas City. And we thank you for listening to AFR.
Just so people know.
Yeah, you got a breaking story here?
And not only do we have breaking story, we take your emails when you email us in, and we, between myself, Dad, and others, and our donor support staff, we read all our emails.
Oh, wait, only the Caleb ones, though.
That's right. No, that's
positive and encouraging.
That's today's issues emails.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's a positive and encouraging. But we do get emailed. We get emails from our listeners on a daily basis, and we read them, and we answer the ones that we can answer, and we try to help you sort through any types of questions you may have about the work we're doing here or something you may need. However, occasionally we get a email that comes in that's undercover, that we, is kind of like off the record, and this is not one of those. This is a lot more light, okay? This is question from Tony Antoniono. He says, we need immediate popcorn machine status update.
Immediate.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, our popcorn machine that we had for 10 years or so, RIP.
Yeah.
It went the way it went to the.
It went to the popcorn machine grave.
To the sky.
To the sky?
Well, You know what?
Is there going to be popcorn in heaven? Yeah,
I
think.
Went to the sky.
Got to think so.
Got to believe, yeah.
So yeah.
So we
bought a new one.
Yeah, so they wanted to know where we're at with the popcorn machine update.
It's a new one. It's
so that when we
it's a baby.
We complained for several days, almost a week
Well,
after
we
it
did-
died.
We needed
so
to complain.
yeah,
you
so-
have to vent sometime,
we
somewhere,
vented.
especially when you have no fresh popcorn.
And
is it up and going? Is it working?
Oh yeah, it's about at 50 feet from me.
Mm-hmm.
If I go through 2 doors right there, it's down there, and it's
Okay, so Tim, I know you're a connoisseur of the
Yes.
of the popcorn from the old machine. How does the new one compare with the old one?
I like it. I haven't. Some people said they noticed a difference. The old one was more flavorful, and my question to you is, why do you think that is? Maybe it's got too much grime in there.
They call it like a coffee cup. They
I've
call
got-
it seasoned.
I don't
That's
know
right,
that.
seasoned.
I'm just
That's right,
guessing.
seasoned.
Yeah, it's seasoned. But but this new one's doing its job, and we got all kind of flavors, flavor and salt back there you can put on it.
So Tony, one of our listeners for today's issues, and his wife Hillary, just to let you know, we are back in business with the
Yes.
popcorn machine, which is why we have not complained as much.
Right, all is well.
All is well here.
Got the
That's
popcorn
good.
machine
Appreciate
going.
the question. Appreciate your
Yes.
concerns.
Yes, that's right. All right, you're listening to today's issues. Steve, what is your first story for us today?
Well, we got some breaking news, something that I think just happened here in the last hour or two. The Tennessee Star, this is the newspaper out of Nashville, has released, it found or was leaked to the entire 90-page manifesto of the Covenant School shooter. Remember, this was a girl that thought that was a transgender, thought she was a boy, wanted to be a boy. She went into a private school, Christian school in Nashville, and killed 6 people, 3 students, 3 adults, I believe, if I recall correctly. And now they have, and the police, for some reason, authorities have been holding on to this manifesto. They haven't wanted to let it go. And we may be finding out why. Now, it's 90 pages. I did not have time to read the 90 pages. I did read about 7 or 8 of them. This is what I'm reading in there. There's a lot of self-hate as a girl, some self-hate for her race. She's, quote, no brown girls, no love. She talks about a crush on an unnamed girl. She calls her parents selfish for not accepting her transgender identity. She writes down a couple pages of pornographic fantasies that she's had. She is angry at God for making her a girl. So a lot of anti-religious overtones, which probably fed into why she chose that school. It's not clear to me at this point. I haven't read a lot of opinion either about why they thought this was such a dangerous document that they couldn't release it. But it's out now.
Well, this will be discussed. I say discussed. I don't know who's going to pick up on this and how wide it will be, but it's happened this morning, right? This release.
Yes.
So what you got here is a young woman. How old was she?
I got it right here. She
20s,
was in her
late 20s.
20s. I'll pull it up here in just a second.
Okay. 20, what is she, 20?
23, 24, I think.
Somewhere in there.
All right. So she is a lesbian.
28. Got it right here.
28?
Huh?
Okay,
There you
28.
go.
She's 28 years old.
Aubrey Hale was
And
28 years old, biological woman.
Okay, and this school that she went and murdered these people at, how many died?
6.
In Nashville, the Nashville area, was her former school.
Yes.
Okay. So, and she was a lesbian, is that right?
Yeah,
It's confusing when she's transgender. She wants to be a boy, and then she's in love with
So she is a girl.
She's a girl
who thinks she's a boy.
that wants to be a boy. She never really kind of thought that she got there.
Or you call a transgender
man.
person.
Yeah, someone in process of trans or
Okay. So, are you saying that the manifesto, which are her words, she was motivated to go to this school because it was a Christian school, which she had graduated from, or at least attended, and she didn't. And she held animus against those people because they made her feel guilty about her sexuality.
Okay, I did not read that. That's a connection that probably is in the 90 pages. She hates God. She hates her parents.
So she's taking it out on God's
she's
people.
Taking it out on the school. This is
Because
what
of-
this is
okay.
what I read. Now all that
Okay.
other may be in there.
Well, it's what you just said and what I said are not dissimilar. I mean,
Well, I'm a reporter. I'm
well, I
trying to
know,
get-
but in
yeah.
terms of motivation for why she might go do something like that, she's at war with God.
Yeah.
And how do you take that out on God? Well, you kill Christians who say they follow God,
That is a
and
sound
who,
deduction.
and who disagree with my lifestyle. I'm just, huh?
Yeah,
So
and
that-
the internal conflict of her not. I think, unlike or maybe like most people who don't want to admit it, I think she understood that she was never going to be a boy. She's angry at God
Why-
for not
you
making
just
her.
wonder why, Ray. You just wonder why go back, why go to your school from 10, 12 years ago and kill innocent people?
Well, she had to know. She had to know how it was going to end.
Yep.
She had to know that it was her last day on earth, and so she wanted to go out killing as many people from the school that she felt had so wronged her.
But that's been so long ago.
I
10
know.
years ago.
I know, but really, I suppose the surprise here, Steve, is there's no surprise at all. This is what if I say we knew, this is what we all expected or thought was in that manifesto from day one.
Yeah, the question in my mind, Ray, is why did they hold on? Since everybody was already kind of positing this, a transgender person that goes and shoots up a Christian school that doesn't believe transgenderism is valid.
Whose decision was it who has the authority to withhold the manifesto from the media?
The FBI and the Nashville police were both in cahoots on that.
You mean the local police?
The local
Yeah,
Nashville.
you said national police.
Nashville.
Nashville. Okay, I got you. Just for clarification.
Now there is in every state there is a agency. I would call it a statewide FBI, but it's not an FBI because it's state.
Yeah, and it might be that.
Instead of
The
Nashville
Tennessee Department
Now-
of yeah.
No, that's the 90-page manifesto. Did they not also leak the? There was an
90 pages. It's a 90 page.
pages.
Yeah.
It's a whole big.
But
book.
there was also a manifesto. It was I say manifesto. They also, a person inside the local Nashville Police Department, also was a what do you call it when you leak something?
Whistleblower.
Whistleblower. There was a whistleblower that also leaked. This was a couple months back. They leaked her journal, which had about 4 or 5 pages of content in there as well. And
this is the journal. This is the rest of the.
the rest of it. Okay, got
All
it.
right.
This is the entire journal.
Here's where conservatives point out double standards, and rightfully so. Had this been any other motivation, an ethnic hate crime or something attacking the LGBT community by a right-wing person, that would have been the manifesto showing that killer's motivation would have been released almost immediately.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And there's not much evidence for that ever being withheld for that. But in this particular case, those in charge of withholding the manifesto didn't want to make the LGBT community look bad because it made them. I don't personally. I hold people. I look at people on an individual basis. I try to anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Not a group, okay? Because every group, including Christians, has its wackos.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Every group has wackos. Every group has people who say and do things that the rest of the group go, I don't know, that you don't speak for me. Okay. So that does happen. But in this case, if you had when people target LGBT, a lot of times the LGBT killings are fellow LGBT folks.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but you're going to hear about that forever if that happens. But in this case, this was kind of a 1-2 day story, and then those authorities decided we're not going to release the manifesto. And I don't know again for what reason they cited necessarily.
I would make one addition to your comment on the wackos on both sides, is that the wackos on the liberal side, the Democrat side, are actually making the policy. They're crafting policy. It's the wacko idea that you can change a kid.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
Girl. So the wackos on the conservative side, we recognize them and we dismiss them. The wackos on the Democrat side seem to be catered to.
Yeah.
It's just an addendum.
Next story.
All right. Well, so one of the things I've been paying a lot of attention to for American Family News is artificial intelligence. Most people's experience with artificial intelligence began with Alexa or another one of those personal assistants that scours the internet and gives you an answer to a question you might have. And I'm running into some people are doing, it's trending now on my Twitter feed, that are doing some experiments to see how unbiased or how biased these, I think it's Alexa in this case, is. And it's not doing well. The people who program these things they're the ones who write the rules about how this is, how answers are communicated. So I want you to hear. This is cut 12. This is a lady. I'm sorry, her voice is a little annoying, but listen to the difference. Listen to the bias here. Cut 12.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the first female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender barrier, and her career in politics has been characterized by a commitment to progressive ideals and a focus on helping disenfranchised communities.
For those who don't know, what are we hearing there?
That is a lady asking Alexa, why should I vote for President Trump?
What websites or devices do you use to? I'm playing dumb here. I know a little bit about this, not a lot, but everybody's heard of Alexis, right?
Alexa, yeah.
See there.
Everybody.
See there. Everybody. See there. I didn't even know. I called her Alexis. Alexa. Alexa is somebody you ask.
It's not somebody.
It's a robot.
It's basically a large language model that it is.
You ask
AI.
them any question, they give you an answer.
Yeah, and how they do that is that it has the ability to scour the internet and kind of average out, give the average answer, or pick and choose answers. The script that they're given, the protocols that are written into the voice to the engine, determine how that works. So they can write in.
Somebody programmed that.
Yeah.
And they're almost always liberal.
Yeah.
And they always so they pretend to be neutral, but they're not. They're all left, and any kind of thing on the right, in this case, President Trump.
Yeah.
But they would suppress.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Alexa is only one manifestation of artificial intelligence. AI is everywhere these days. It's not only the public things that like Alexa and other things that you see up front, but it's the back engine of a whole lot of other software and everything. So your world is being influenced by AI that's been programmed to be very biased in a whole lot of ways. And it has a whole lot of effect, I think, Ray, on the upcoming election.
Well, so you've got Alexa here who, when you ask about Donald Trump, feigns ignorance. Oh, impartiality. Then you ask her about Kamala Harris, and she gives this detailed pro-left, extremely it's a cheerleading propaganda piece for Kamala Harris. Oh, I think we're only on the front end, and this is 9 weeks to go in terms of what AI is going to be used for to to influence voters unconsciously.
Subconsciously, yeah.
This is what I mentioned just recently, the last couple of weeks, to remind our audience, remind us, is that the Republican candidate is playing with one hand behind his back, and this is just one more example of many where you're getting a completely. It's one thing to list off, like if Alexa would have walked through the quote accomplishments, even if Alexa didn't agree it was an accomplishment, but if they just list off, here are the things the Republican candidate did, here are the things the Democrat candidate did, and then moved on. But that's not what you're getting here. I mean, you heard it yourself there. Yeah, it's.
Have you tried this yourself, Steve?
I haven't, but I can. I don't.
But
know.
don't do it live. Yeah. Do it between now and tomorrow.
Yeah.
6 years ago, there's a comedian / conservative reporter, Steven Crowder. 6 years ago, he did this live on air, and he did it with Alexa, and he did it with Muhammad and Jesus.
Oh.
And that was quite the contrast. And it was pretty. And because
you remember what he found?
Well, he found that Muhammad was noble, upright, did everything, was very kind, very generous, and found that they basically had nothing to. They had no answer. Jesus was not one of the top 10 people. You know what I mean? Like it was.
A lot of people use Google, right, Ray?
Right.
And I know that Google, I don't know what you call those characters or drawings that they'll put.
Doodles. Doodles.
And I've noticed like the last, and a lot of Christians are point this out, they won't put anything up there about Easter.
Right.
Now, I don't know, maybe they do at Christmas, maybe they put a reindeer up there, I don't know. But other religious holidays, they seem to acknowledge. And I don't have documentation in front of me. I just do know it is true that you have a worldwide celebration, Ray, of a religious holiday, Easter, and nothing from Google about it.
Right. Just a reminder, folks, you don't have to use Google. There are other search engines.
There are.
Some of them very good. I personally use DuckDuckGo, which I think is every bit the equal of Google without the problems that you just mentioned.
Right. But I mean, I'm just almost all of these.
I'm reading the transcript here to answer your question.
Which question?
The question about what did Alexa find?
Okay.
The transcript.
Where are you getting that from? YouTube.
YouTube. They have the transcript of the video that I described that took place 6 years ago. It says that Jesus was a fictional character and a far left social justice warrior.
Wow.
Now
what?
That was Alexa's answer?
Yeah. Now,
really?
Now, what's interesting, though, is I remember he's followed up since then.
Talking about Steven Crowder?
Steven Crowder.
He's a social media influencer. He has millions of followers, right?
Yeah, 6 million YouTube followers. But he followed up, and they have Alexa or who's responsible for Alexa? Google?
I think it's
whoever it was. That as a result of his findings, they went back and made some adjustments on their back end. But do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you who's always pointing this out, and he has received the ire of many in the high-tech world, and that is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, the high-tech world of which he is a part, they hate him.
He's gone to war with Brazil.
Yeah.
Right now, gone to war with Brazil.
Has Brazil banned X?
Yes.
Twitter,
yes.
The whole country?
No, the president banned it from the whole country.
But why? What's the reason? You know,
the president is a kind of a very authoritarian globalist and doesn't like the fact that there's a lot of stuff that can be said. He's been described as a dictator. Therefore, there are people that can put stuff up that he doesn't like about himself. For one, he's all on the misinformation, disinformation bandwagon. So. All the liberal reasons. And the penalties are very severe, by the way.
Listen, the globalist elite, and I know that's
broad.
That's broad, and I can't define it exactly. You know who you are.
You know who you are.
That's right. You know.
The shoe fits wear it.
Yes, Elon Musk is at war with the people who want to centralize power, especially with the internet around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason. He didn't have to buy Twitter, which he renamed to X. I mean, he had enough going on in his life. Talking about Elon Musk, he was the richest man in the world, may still be. And but he saw what was happening, and I don't think he would identify himself as a conservative, but he saw what was going on with the liberal / secular progressives starting to take over every single social media. What do you call them? Platform. Yeah. And so you were only going to have one ideology pushed out, and that is, again, secular progressivism. And he said, you know what? I'm going to spend money, millions and millions and millions. I don't know how much he spent of his own personal money to buy Twitter, which he changed to X, and in the name of keeping free speech alive.
Yeah, and he had the money up for. He had the money for a while. I mean, he
had already made his house payment.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, what I was going to say is he was ready and prepared to pay for it and move on quicker than they were willing to sell it. Remember,
I don't know. I don't even know if it's making money for him or what his business plan is for it to make money. I'm sure he would like to, but he did it for the cause of protecting free speech.
Right.
That's the reason Elon Musk bought that. And I hope that President Trump, I know that Elon Musk has
allowed him back on.
Has he endorsed Trump or not?
Yes, he endorsed him the day after that he got shot.
Okay, I thought he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The day after he got shot.
He did?
Yes. The attempted
assassination. So Elon Musk, he knows what's at risk. I mean, he and Donald Trump, I may not see eye to eye on everything, but that's okay. Elon Musk knows that Donald Trump, as a candidate, is the only vehicle that remains out there to stop the secular progressives from taking over and trying to take over and shut everything and shut down conservative media.
And that's where Donald Trump got a lot of endorsements.
Yeah.
Since then.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe we can talk more about Elon Musk tomorrow. But thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.
I always look forward to Share-a-thon because I love hearing listener stories. They are so encouraging.
My mother passed away